Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
What are you passionate about? Whatever that is, do your business in that. Because there's going to be moments where you're super sick of it and you're tired of it. But if there's a core passion there, I think that spark will kind of keep you going.
Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and this is my friend and co-host Danelle.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, and today we're also here with our friend Sarah.
Hello.
Sarah Hill. And we've been courting her actually.
We have.
To be on this podcast for a while.
It's been a lovely courtship. It's really been wonderful.
Have we done okay?
Yeah,
in our courting you?
We razzle dazzle with wine and shiny things.
It works, yeah.
Well, and speaking of courting, we won't jump right into how we truly met.
You just cannot wait to say this.
I can't because, our listeners already know about Sarah.
They do.
So in case you are wondering why, is because we talk about Sarah in a very specific way because she's the mom to my boyfriend Hudson, who was one of the first fur humans that I met in the building, and I became obsessed with him. Little Hudson, and he became obsessed with me, and it was like I knew his name, and it was after like the fourth or fifth time I'm like, I'm being so rude. Like, I don't even know his mom's name. And I mean, you're always nice to me and you have a delightful smile. But we were usually passing each other. And then Hudson and I would have a makeout session and then, go on our separate ways. So anyway, to our listeners, this is Hudson's mom.
Yes.
Sarah Hill.
Proud mom of Hudson, the dog. In case anyone thinks it's a person, it's a dog.
No, it's fine. I got a couple messages after the first time because I didn't tend to clarify that he was a fur. They're like, well, hello. What's going on with you in New York? So
and
anyway.
we will gladly share a picture of him
For sure.
Yeah.
on our social media because he is just the cutest little teddy bear of a dog.
Thanks.
He's perfect.
That face.
No, he's perfect.
He's perfect unless you have a
Yeah.
dirty sock near
He has
him.
some ticks. He has some,
He has
some
some ticks.
little, like we all do. I mean, let's be honest. We all do.
Yeah,
anyway, I think he's
sure.
perfect. So,
What do we think he is on the Enneagram?
Oh, that's a good
The
one.
dog
Hudson?
animals. I like to label
Hudson's
animals
absolutely
now.
a 2.
A 2.
And when he struggles with possessiveness, so he goes to that 8 and he becomes aggressive about possessing things, but it's when he's trying to get your attention.
Oh, he gets jealous. Maybe.
Of whatever.
sure.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be anybody else around. It's jealous of space and time with him.
Oh.
It's the
And you
craziest thing.
babysit this animal I was going to say baby,
Often.
but
Oh, we have date nights a lot. And now Mackie cannot come here. Mackie Payton does not come to my apartment without can you just let Sarah know that I'm coming over? I'd like to see Hudson. I was like, oh, you're coming to see Hudson.
yeah, not me.
Anyway, it's so
convenient.
great to have you. We've become close friends, and I cannot wait for our listeners to hear your story and learn
thanks.
more about you. I remain in awe most of the time. So
Thank you.
let's.
Okay, I'm gonna just tell a little bit about Sarah.
Sure. I kind of hijacked with Hudson.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. But
He's
I
a
do
big part of me, so it's okay.
That's so sweet. He is such a sweet little man. Okay, I just want to say this. She is a fellow Texan who has moved to New York City and recently celebrated her 10-year. I've lived here in New York City. Badass.
It was one of the best social posts I've seen
Yeah.
in a really long time. She's an incredible writer, but you'll learn about that in a sec.
She's also a fellow marketer and business owner, and we'll talk more about that, and a young leader and thriving CEO. So I just am so impressed, and we're just so glad that you're here today.
Oh, thanks.
Let me read your bio. This is the only time while I'll read, and everybody knows it gets kind of dull, but because of my voice, not because of you. So I'll try to make this as
Just make it as exciting
lively as possible.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Sarah Hill is the founder of Bobi Media, the digital media agency. She's originally from Fort Worth, Texas, yeehaw, and attended the University of Oklahoma.
Boomer. Oh, what a great win.
After college, Sarah worked for Al Jazeera, English News Network, in Washington, D.C., and then moved into startups, working in digital media for clients like HBO, Nike, and more. Just, little companies. In 2013, Sarah moved to New York City, where she was the social media manager for MetLife Super Bowl. I don't know what these numbers are. Do you want to clarify? XLV2?
I also don't know. So
It's probably like 37.
every time I type it out, I'm like,
Oh, the Roman numerals.
I think it's 37. Super Bowl 37. Sarah then began work for another startup, The Reading Room. Eventually, Sarah was asked to step up and be the CEO of the reading room. She relaunched and rebranded the company to Bookster.
Yeah,
Bookster.
We're still wondering if that was the right choice because
Nobody can say it.
No one says it
Well,
right.
and I just totally butchered it. So
No, it's
let me correct, Bookster.com, developing many international media partnerships. In 2018, Sarah started Bobi Media. The company has now worked with over 100 well-known clients, including artists, publishers, actors, authors, retailers, websites, startups, nonprofits, banks, style sites, healthcare companies, and more. I didn't even know there was more, but that's
more.
That's a lot.
Oh, there's more. There's always more. We're marketers.
There's always more. Outside of work, Sarah enjoys running, gardening, exploring New York, and spending time with her amazing dog, Hudson, little love bug. All right, so let's hear a little from you first on how we know Sarah.
Well, I mean,
Like, where did the two of you meet the first time? You attacked her.
I attacked Hudson.
Okay.
So we don't need to rehash that. I mean, I literally,
Okay.
I can't
That was
explain to
it.
you. And my heart was still
Crushed about Shelby.
yeah, I needed, and it was the first dog that I was actually able to bond with. And then Sarah and I just struck up a conversation, and we ended up, there was a brand new restaurant that opened up, and we went and had, drinks and bite, and we just immediately connected. We realized we were both from Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah.
We shared a commonality around marketing. Her current company is very much in the same space of what we do, but for very different audiences. And we shared on that. And then she's also a founder and CEO. And, she did that at a very young age, as did I. And, I talked about the podcast, and you listened to some of the episodes, and we were able to just, and moving here has been an incredible experience for me, but it's also been, it's been a bit of a struggle. I mean, I'm like, no bones about it. And I knew there were going to be some aspects that I would struggle with, but then there were just a bunch of surprises. And so you were just one of those people that when we met, you cared beyond just having another acquaintance. It was I don't know how to say it, but we had a pretty strong bond right away. And I just had an immense amount of respect for you. And then we just slowly got to know each other, and you'd lived here longer than I had. And so that's really how we met, was just through conversation.
Really, you just want to kidnap the dog.
At first, she knows this, and she forgives me for it partially, but she can't. She understands it because she loves him too. I mean,
dogs bridge.
He's a thing.
Bridge people.
But it is Sarah, and then I had asked her. I said I would love to sit, and we're not just going to keep talking about Hudson, everybody, but there's a link here. But that she asked, I said, I'd love to dog sit for you. And she's like, I haven't had a great relationship with dog sitters before. They haven't done their thing. I go, why don't you and Hudson just come over? Yeah, why don't you come over, have happy hour with Hudson and I?
Yeah.
I mean, no, yeah, pretty much, Sarah. Yeah. Why don't you come over and have happy
I was third wheeling the happy hour, that's for sure. It was.
Yeah, and so he just, we really connected. And so I think she felt at ease.
It was so nice.
And then we had an opportunity where I was like, I'm staying home. Can I keep Hudson tonight?
And I'm like, look, I'm trying to go on dates. Like, I am trying to get out there.
And I'm like, I want to go on a date with Hudson. So it worked out perfectly. So I kept him. And then and then after that, because he did so well, and she said he was so happy, which really filled my heart.
He was happy afterwards. Yes. Like, his tail wouldn't stop. Like, he used to shake when I would pick him up from his dog sitter. And I just thought he didn't like being away from me. And then Janelle was like, that's not normal.
No.
And then now I know that. Like, he gets really excited when we come up here, and he just runs straight for the door. So anyway, it's a mutual love, I've got to say.
It is. And so then she had a chance to go on what I thought was a vacation. And this is very important. So my mad respect for Sarah is that she's like, yeah, I'm going away for 4 nights. Would you be available to keep Hudson? She asked me months in advance. And so I was like, yeah, but I'm just thinking she's going somewhere with her friends. And I'm like, hell yeah, we put it on the calendar. I was all set up. And so one day we were talking, I was like, so where are you going? And she's like, oh, I'm going back to give the commencement address at OU, the School of Journalism. Okay. And she's like, I'm kind of anxious about this the speech, and she was working on it
That's an understatement. Kind of anxious.
Yeah,
Oh
she's
my
working on
God.
it nonstop. We'll put a link to it because it's out on YouTube and it's really good, and I want our listeners. But I think that was another major step forward in our relationship.
sure.
Was me getting to hear your story. And honestly, David was the first person, our producer, as y'all know, our partner in this podcast. He was the first person that ever introduced AI to me. And part of her commencement speech to these, you know, the School of Journalism, which is being heavily impacted by artificial intelligence, she weaves it into her commencement speech. So please go listen to it again. We'll have the links in the show notes, because I love the way you used what is a threat to many of us, and which is also a crutch also to many of us. You put it in a framework that made me see it differently, even in my own young. I mean, when David showed it to me, I was like,
You're talking about ChatGPT.
well, we use a different one. He introduced me to AI chat, but they're the same.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially the same thing.
Okay.
I think you talked about chat
Yeah, I
GPT
did.
in your speech. It's all similar stuff. My point being is that I barely knew you, and you literally helped me change. David introduced it, but you helped me change my point of view on it being something we shouldn't be scared of. We should lean into it. But you were the first person I ever heard say, as everyone started talking about this, is that AI doesn't have emotion. And I love what you said there. So anyway, that was too long of a winded answer, but I have such mad respect for this incredible
Yes.
human, and that
Thank
these
you.
are just tidbits on what was leading towards the growing admiration that I have for you.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Stick around. We'll get more into Sarah after this advertisement.
Hello, Self Smarter leaders. I have some exciting and game-changing news for you today. At long last, we've developed an Enneagram tool that you are going to want to sink your teeth into as you prepare for the new year coming soon. I'm so excited to share this with you. So here's what I want you to know. First of all, with this offer, you get 2 incredible resources all about the Enneagram for only $29. So happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas to all of you. Okay, and what a great gift, too, to give to somebody. But when you purchase this Enneagram bundle, you receive first our document called Exploring the Enneagram, which we created ourselves, which comes in the form of an ebook and provides you with a comprehensive look at each of the 9 Enneagram types and the unique difference between each type's core fears, desires, motivations, coping behaviors, and so much more. All the things we talk about here on the podcast that you love. And we made it just for you, so it's easy to follow and digest. It's not overwhelming. And then secondly, in the bundle, you receive a second ebook titled Leadership in the Enneagram. This Enneagram tool aims to help you become a more informed and intentional leader so that you can guide your team to begin their own personal growth journey. What better gift can you bestow upon someone other than the gift of knowledge? So we want to bestow that on you first with that first document, Exploring the Enneagram, so that you can then turn around and lead someone else in light of the Enneagram with the Leadership and Enneagram ebook. You're going to love them both, and we've priced it to sell at that $29 price point, so you're welcome. Visit BeSelfSmarter.com and click on resources to get your Enneagram bundle today.
Okay, we're back. Miss Sarah, we asked you to take an Enneagram test in preparation for this interview.
You did.
And did you see the results?
I did.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you talk about it, and then we'll reveal what Enneagram type you are. Are you in agreement with this analysis?
I guess. I don't know enough.
I'm not surprised, honestly.
Really?
No.
I wasn't at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I was a little surprised. And I have to say, I actually, once I got the results, I was like, my wheels were turning and I was like, what are all my family members?
Yes.
That's what happens.
Went to my siblings. And I was like, I need you to take this test. And they were like, we took this like 6 months ago. And then I got their results and we had some similar things. So then I was like, I wonder what my mom is. So I'm like, Mom, you have to take this test. And it was a whole experience. It was almost a family bonding moment because it was really interesting to see how much, I have a twin sister. So it was like how much of us is similar. Like we've always been like nurture versus nature
Yes.
and asking that question.
Yes.
So it was interesting.
So for everyone, she's a 3. We didn't say her number.
I said I was going to wait.
Oh, you did? Oh, I just
But that's
busted it.
okay.
You want to cut that?
No, let's not cut it because let's just remind everybody, type 3 is the achiever.
Right. Yeah. It's desperate. It's awful.
Yes. No, it's amazing in that your big fear is to not win, basically.
Oh, don't
not meet your
say
goals.
that.
Yeah, to not meet your goals. And that's okay. That's okay. Like all of the Enneagram types have their core basic fear.
Right.
It's not, dude, it's not fun. It's like just not fun.
And it's so funny because it's 3s, 8s, and I would say maybe 1s when they read the test for the
They don't
first time.
like it.
At the first, and then you get a little bit deeper into it. They tend to be the numbers, the people that have the dominant numbers of 1, 3, and 8. They tend to reject it most often. Whereas, like a 2 or a 9 or even a 7, everybody wants to be the enthusiast. I'm a 7. They're like, oh, that sounds fantastic.
But they don't want the baggage.
I go just
They don't know
read a
about the baggage.
little bit further down.
Yeah, we all have it.
Oh my God.
We all have it. It's just a matter of how the baggage has shaped you, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's shaped you into a winner, okay.
Well, I mean,
Oh, I
3-time
mean-
CEO and founder,
Yeah.
barely at the age of 30.
Yeah.
It makes sense to, I mean, you can't deny some of the things your track
You
record
just
led
don't
to.
think about it when you're
No.
daily operating on a daily basis. You're like, and then you kind of channel your competitiveness or that drive into things that serve you instead of like creating tension or just getting angry. You're like, okay, you know that it's in you, you know that it's there. I think as I've gotten older, it's gotten larger as far as not as ambition, but as far as maybe as far as I don't even know the word for it, like maybe discipline. Like I'm just like way more disciplined, and that to me like creates even more momentum and more like
Yeah.
I was surprised, and I was kind of just like, oh my God, I don't need any more of this.
What did you think you were going to be?
You're a twin? You're an identical twin?
Fraternal twin, yeah.
Fraternal twin, okay.
Yeah.
She asked a question I interrupted.
Yeah.
What did you think you were going to be?
I really didn't know. I thought maybe I would be like, the peacemaker. I thought maybe that.
That's a 9. That's
Yeah,
May.
which was my other one, I think.
Well, you do have a tie.
It's a
Which is
tie.
why we like each other so much.
Oh.
Well, I mean, we are connected in a triad.
Oh, wow.
3s, 9s, and 6s
Oh.
are connected. So when I'm in growth as a 9, I behave like you and I think like you.
Oh,
I get
interesting.
more disciplined. I show up ready to do work, and I'm achieving in a big way.
Oh, interesting.
You
And her confidence level goes
Way
up.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because I don't want to be seen just like you don't either. I don't want to be seen as a failure.
Right.
When she's in growth.
It's true.
Or I don't want to believe I'm a failure ever. So I do all these things to prevent that from ever happening, which
Freaking
is what you do.
exhausting. Yeah, real exhausting.
Freaking exhausting. And you have a direct relationship because you're in a triad with a 9, which is who I am, the peacemaker, as well as a 6, which is the loyalist. So in your times of growth, you go to 6, which is the loyalist. You get really focused and also you don't want to break hearts, let's say. Like you want to stick to the plan and you want to see it through till the end because that's what the loyalist does.
Yeah, even to your own detriment. Yeah.
But that's a healthy thing. Actually, it should be healthy.
Unless you're in a relationship.
Okay. Ooh, we can talk about that.
And then it's
Things
not
just got
healthy.
juicy. Right. Whereas when you're in stress, you go to 9, and that's where you can feel paralyzed. But what was interesting about your Enneagram test was that you scored very high on a 5.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, very much so. I definitely have 5 tendencies.
Oh, we have all of
That
it.
All
are
of it.
like, yeah, that are like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go lock myself away and I'm going to go like work on this app for like 2 weeks and not talk to anyone, which I don't ever really talk about that side of myself. But that's my writer side. Like
Yeah.
that is
You have
definitely,
to
yeah,
survive.
it's
Yeah.
for sure a part of my
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
I never thought that this was going to pick up on that because it's like something really hidden that I'm like, nobody gets to really go there except for me. And if someone does, it's very controlled, like through writing or through social media or through an app, like through creative endeavors, you can control that. So I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen. They picked up on that like shadow side. Oh shit.
I think it was great that we started. Well, first of all, I think it was great that we started with Hudson, and then we went into a little bit more about you and how you're wired. But we have to go back to your career journey, because there's just some jaw dropping that you're very casual about.
Yeah.
That when you read Sarah's resume, it jumps off the page. So talk to us about, you grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. You were recruited. Were you recruited to go to the journalism school at OU?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Writing I'd scored a perfect writing score, and that was a new thing on the SAT that year. And so the second that they found out, they were like, you know.
So that in itself is impressive.
Yes.
I mean, I can't fathom that, but okay. That's just amazing.
It was
OU.
interesting because you just feel like, you know, I remember this one.
Do you remember what you wrote about?
You know, I want to say I wrote about Egyptian civilization somehow.
So fun.
Very light. Some
Riveting.
light.
Easy reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm even talking about this, but I'm just remembering. So they really liked my results, and then they had me come in for this day, and I was looking at schools. I really wanted to be on the East Coast, and my mom was like, absolutely not. And so then OU was like, come to visit and see what you think. So I went to go visit, and they had us there with this in this classroom, and there was probably like 30 other people there. And my mom and I are sitting there like, what are we doing here? These, you know, everybody's like really different. You know, you just got the vibe, like people were doing different things. And so they put us in this room, and this woman's like, okay, so everyone here is here for a reason, and we're going to do like a little contest to see who we think is has like some of the most interesting talents. And I was like, oh my God.
A talent show.
Yeah.
Great.
Talent show.
Watch as I fill
the
these
hell?
glasses and play a tune. You know how they do the ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
So we had to write
my.
down our talents. And I'm like, Mom, like, I'm sitting there like, well, I published poetry. You know, like, who's going to care? No one cares about that. You know, I just kind of like, no one cares. And then I think that was my talent, was like, I'm a published poet. But it wasn't like a big... It's not like I had a bestseller, you know. It was like just a published poem. Like, we probably paid them to publish it. Like, I don't remember.
Where was it published? Was it in Highlights?
No.
Who told me that? Why is that coming back to me?
I would have killed to be in Highlights.
Yeah.
I would have killed to be in Highlights.
Boy.
I don't know what it was. I don't.
But
I
you
mean, there was
remember I
like
pulled
books
that one out of my...
You did. I don't know
did.
where that came from.
way back in there. No, it was a book or two. There were a few. I really
Wow.
loved it. And so then I'm like, okay. So then they go through this hat, and they pull out all these cool things that these people have done. And one of them's like, okay, we had a tie. We had someone who had like a perfect SAT score, which mine was not, by the way. My math was like awful.
Same.
It's gotten better, thank God.
Same.
Yeah, we had to. And so then they're like, okay, the winner is a tie. The first, you know, we have this person who created an electric guitar. They made it from scratch, a homemade electric guitar.
You're like,
okay, why are we in this room, Mom? And then they're like, and then Sarah Hill, like, you are a published poet. And I was like, what the heck? This is like not nearly as cool as that. But the fact that they were, you know, they were excited about my talent is really what the lesson was to me. Like, you go in the room where people are excited about you.
I love that.
So yeah, but then we looked over, and there's a girl who's like, yeah, I'm 13 and I'm going to college next year. And I'm like, we're in the wrong room, Mom. Like, we gotta get out of here. And yeah, but after that experience, OU ended up being a great spot for me to be. And I loved my experience there. I was very involved in the honors school, and just like really loved learning there. So yeah.
And then from OU,
Yeah, from OU, Al Jazeera English. I studied, I went and did a media course over in studying British and French media. And from that experience, we went to all these international media outlets, toured them, and had to kind of synthesize what we learned from magazines and newspapers and, in different languages. And Al Jazeera stood out to me because they had been really raw about what they were covering. It was during...
Yeah, so this was 2000 and...
Yeah, 2000 and I guess it was like 2008.
Okay. Oh, whoa. What a year to be in the media.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in the... this was when I was touring. And then, so I went there and then studied more at Oxford. And then I came back. And I was like desperate to get an internship. None of the doors were opening. And I was like, if in a perfect world, I'd like to go work for Al Jazeera because I really wanted to fight this like war on truth. Like I really wanted to tell the stories that mattered about people that were more in the field, not so much like in an office. And, I really, really wanted real stories.
You wanted to be Bradley Jackson on the morning show.
Yeah, I did. I love her.
Gosh, I love her too.
Her.
So it's like journalism was at the heart of what you really, and you wanted to not just be in journalism. You wanted to also kind of course correct where it had gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
appreciate that.
Really like focus on the people that ultimately that's what journalism should be about, is telling these people's stories. And the things that happen to them. And I thought, these people need their story told, especially in the Middle East at that time. I think there was such a big, Americans really didn't understand.
Yeah, we were afraid.
Yeah,
honestly.
we were afraid and angry. And I wanted to dig
then we
more
had
in that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to dig more into that. Like, what is here, actually?
Yeah.
Actually. So then it was like, people were like, you're going to work for Al Jazeera. Is that a terrorist organization?
Terrible.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it got even weirder when I got there because...
Where was this?
In
Here?
DC.
Oh, it was in DC. That's right. Okay.
So then I actually faced prejudice that I had never in a million years expected from people who came from like Ivy League schools, and they were there and like, oh, you're from Texas and you care about the world. Will you shake my hand? And then they would like call me Barbie. And that wasn't when Barbie was good. Right?
Yeah.
That was like, you're like, people hated Barbie.
Right.
And
it was derogatory.
And I got so pissed. It was great. Like it was the best thing ever. Cause I got so pissed. I was like, this is not what I thought it was. The American division, which has since shut down. So, I mean, I think Al Jazeera itself is still doing great journalism. So I don't
globally, but not here.
Globally, yeah.
Not allowed.
Yeah, they were not welcomed here.
No.
Yeah. And that's
so interesting too. It's like even just coming here to New York, and I don't know if you faced this 10 years ago, because I know we're on your 10th anniversary. It's the number one thing. I think New Yorkers are, if you tell them you're new to their city, they'll help you with all the things that you need to know immediately. But for some, not most, I want to make that very clear, but for some people, when I say I'm from Texas, there's an issue there. There's just there's just an issue there. They don't know anything about me. They don't know where I stand. They don't know anything. But I think I'm still shocked by that. But I kind of take your attitude with it too. It makes me immediately go deep into my Texas country accent. Like I will turn so Texan so quick.
And you know what? You want a Texas woman on your side. Let me tell you, you will always want the Texas woman on your side.
And how ironic and I don't know the order of episodes, but we just interviewed another one of our neighbors in the building, incredible person, Molly Garza, and it's just, to me, ironic that all three of us are from Texas.
I know, it's awesome.
I mean, y'all have been here for a lot longer, but how interesting for the first couple of women that I meet and connect with in the building.
Yeah.
And that have become really good friends of mine is we're all from Texas. I think that also was comforting to me.
For sure.
So Al Jazeera.
Yep, Al Jazeera. And then I decided, I had this moment. I was there. I was like, I had just been sick and I came back and I was making nothing. And I was like desperate for them to give me more hours. And I just kind of, I looked at the reporters who were in the field, literally like in the middle of the Middle East with bombs behind them. And I'm listening to the reporters say, well, we need to cover more of like the FIFA. And I'm just like, you know, I was just like kind of crushed. Like my whole thing was crushed. I was like, I thought this was more of what I was looking for, and it's not. So, and then I saw that there were, you know, the whole back office was like glass doors, and there were all these men, and they were smoking cigars like right at 5. And I was like, you know, I think I could make more of a difference if I was on that side of things instead of like being here. These are the guys or the people pulling the strings. They get to say what stories go and stay. They get to say, you know, where the money's going, where the resources are going. So I'm going to do that instead. And then I just kind of did a whole flip.
Explain that a little bit more when you say you wanted to be on that side. What you're meaning is you wanted to be on the decision-making side of content that was going to actually be shared versus being the one who was creating the content.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a really big flip in my world. Like, okay, I never in a million years would have thought that I wanted to be on that side of things, but it seemed to me like that would be better for my demeanor even.
Right.
So I went, was trying to find a job. I was during a recession. It was awful. And I got something at a startup called Urban Delight. Well, actually, first it was a Cotton Bowl. So I went to the Cotton Bowl, worked in Dallas. Love those guys. They're amazing, that group of guys over there. It was so fun. And my dad would come and like, you know, raid the pantry, and they'd be like, someone go get your dad, because he was working at the stadium. So someone go get your dad.
That's amazing.
It was so fun. And I was living at home with my mom and my stepdad, and it was a good time. And then I was like, what, you know, the Cotton Bowl ends, and I was like, well, I need a, you know, non-seasonal job. So then I went to work for Urban Delight, which was like a Groupon type company when Groupon was like it. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a moment where
it was
in
hot.
the recession, everyone wanted a Groupon.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do remember.
Did you ever have one?
I bought a lot of things that I don't think I ever.
You know what my talent is? If you had to ask me right now, that a fact that I never did a Groupon.
Wow.
So that would be one of my
Rare.
rare.
Really rare.
Yeah.
I
Really
don't have the
rare.
patience. Yeah.
And it was so funny too, because the Groupons were always for things that you probably shouldn't like skimp on, like laser treatments, like hair removal,
teeth
you're like,
cleaning.
I want to do that. Yeah. And then you're like, wait a minute, do I want to do that? Are you using different instruments or harder wax? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the good that came out of this job was that I just came up. I was like their 4th hire, and they were like, we need you to write all this copy and put in an email. Yeah. Content. And I was in charge of the whole thing. And I was like, well, I can't just like make this up. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, let me call them. Like, let me call the business owners. And they're like, what? Like the sales team was like, you want to talk to the business owners? Because now I'm like, I could have ruined the sale, right? If I was, but I never did. But I was like, yeah, I want to talk to them. So I called them up, and I just fell in love with them, you know? And my stepdad, he started a company from a lawn mowing company when he was 13, and it paid for our whole lives, you know, that company. So I just felt right at home talking to these small business owners. And I fell in love with helping them hit their goals.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. It was amazing. I'd be like, okay, we can tell your story. We're going to make it funny. We're going to, you know, what's like something we can pull on the heartstrings? Like, was grandma involved? And they're like, yeah, actually. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, just things that were true to the business, but also helped us tell the story about who they were. And then.
So it sounds like it was like a true intersection of your journalism, your love for journalism, and but using it in a way, just really almost in a different medium of media. Yeah, really is what you're doing. So you didn't have to stray too far away from the thing that you ultimately wanted to do, which is to tell better stories, more meaningful stories.
Yeah, and also not for nothing, I had learned the value of money by that point. My parents had cut me off like way before that, and I had been struggling. So I was like, people need money. Like, I need money, but also all these people need money. So how can I help them with this? and get paid. So yeah, it was a big light bulb. Then it was a startup, so it ended, of course, because they all
What
9
was
out
your
of 10 do.
what was your ultimate role there?
I was head of their, I don't remember what we called it, creative department or something.
Okay.
We ended up having, I want to say like 20 writers and editors. It really grew at some point.
So obviously this podcast is all centered around leadership for the most part. And we believe that leaders are, it's a decision. We don't think it's something that is born.
Yeah.
We think it's a decision that you make. You know the genesis of the podcast. It basically started because I was very successful at owning a business. I started it, owned it, ran it. We were very successful in many, many ways, and many of the metrics that I'm sure you have had to follow. And then I found out 8 years ago that I had a 26% approval rating as a leader. Talk to us at this stage before you get in, because I think it's important for our leaders. You all know that she's been a CEO a couple times over and now is founder and CEO. So at this stage, you'd made this transition from a type of journalism that you had hoped would be. You transitioned successfully, very insightful. You used the motivation of growing up, watching your stepdad and his business, and then now you're seeing this for what it is. What was your relationship with leadership at that time?
Oh God.
Before you got into the other seat? Because I think it would be an interesting part of the story for our listeners. And honestly, for me, I don't think I've ever asked you that question. So leadership then, and then what it became and what it is now.
Oh, wow. Oh, I had a feeling you were going to ask me this. Yeah, I would say, I'm trying to think how old I was at this point. I was probably like 24, 25. I was pretty bad. I was leading because I was brave, and, it's like I was able to get a lot of the people I went to school with and get them jobs. And I was like, okay, we can do this. But I was awful. Like in hindsight, really awful. I think I would hope, I felt like probably until I was like 32, that if I was giving people a job, that I felt entitled for them to like respect me off of that, which is just truly awful. But then you're also like, they didn't know how hard I worked to get them their job. And so you think that would be enough, and it's not.
Sound familiar?
It sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
And thank you for being vulnerable and know,
Yes.
and you used the word awful, but what I'd also like to add into that reality is it's not unusual.
That makes me feel a little better, but
It doesn't mean that it's okay,
yeah.
but it means that those of us who decide that that's not how we want to show up,
Yeah.
and that we don't want to have that, you don't sometimes, to your point, you did work your ass off to be able to get into position to be able to hire someone.
Right.
And I know everyone in this room, and there's 4 of us with David and Meg and Sarah and I, that's where it's easy to not see that for what it is, because inside your heart, that is also coming from a place of accountability and responsibility, is where that can be manifested. But it's easy for it to turn into exactly the word you use. You felt entitled that they should have a certain level of respect for you or appreciation for you. And it's not that they don't.
Correct. Yeah.
But it's more of like this internal dialogue that you're having and this expectations. And then when they don't deliver and when something goes awry, it's quick to be like,
why didn't you do this?
Why didn't you do this? And so,
But it's not them.
but I don't think that that's been a part of conscious servant leadership that's just been taught, especially to those of us that are just self-starters. That's hence the name of the podcast. And what we're trying to do here is to become and to elevate that thing that you've identified, which is becoming more self-smarter and being able to reflect. So you carried that with you into your kind of that mindset into your next role. So then let's talk about the next role and then how leadership started to change for you.
Yeah. So I would say the next big role, I think there were a couple, roles in between there, but the next big role was at the reading room. And I started as their social media manager and then grew into their director of content and then their chief product officer and then ultimately their CEO.
What was that time frame, roughly?
I want to say that was like 2015, 2014 till the reading room, maybe like 2017. And then it became Bookster, and then it was 2 more years.
So roughly 5 years, you went from social media manager to CEO. That's just what I'm.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had 5 or 6 roles along the way. It was a fairly startup. So it was a fast moving company, which that totally makes sense. But it is very unusual, social media manager to CEO in a 5-year time period. So I just wanted to give our listeners a little bit more context around that.
How about the level of 3-ness? That's what you're trying to do.
3-ness, my God.
And she's like, well, I don't know for sure if I'm a 3.
We're like, duh. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good to know.
Okay. So social media manager to CEO.
Well, to be fair, actually, it was when the algorithm for Facebook was pretty easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
And
we remember those days. Those were the good old days.
The good old days. So the 5 in me, was like, I'm obsessed with this, and I'm gonna like make this the best thing possible. And like pretty soon after I started there, their audience was growing like 1,000 by the day.
Yes.
You remember when we could do that? It was amazing.
God, it was so exhilarating.
It was through book content, which is stuff that I really lit up with. So of course I'd make these like goofy graphics.
Yeah.
And I would sit, I would do it all the time. Like I would go home and make them. I was just like obsessed. And I would answer these people from all around the world. I'm like, I also love that book. Yeah. Control and validation on my passion. Yes. Oh, people were sending me like backpacks that they'd made. Like I loved this audience. Loved them. And they loved me too. It was beautiful.
Beautiful love story.
Beautiful. So it was rather easy to grow this audience. So I looked really good to the CEO because other numbers weren't moving as quickly, and it was a eyeball based company. So it was like it's
and
not
what were
natural.
the numbers again?
Well, ultimately we grew it to over 3 million organic followers. In a very short amount of time without any money except for my salary. And so because of that, then suddenly the investors were like, who is doing this? Like, what is happening? And I think, it's kind of unfortunate as well because that did do so well. We really didn't concentrate as much on like the product, and some of the things in the product ended up failing to some degree. And instead of putting resources there, we just kind of chased like what was working. But it was ultimately to the demise pretty much of really what the company was founded on, which was a Groupon, a Goodreads competitor. So there was a whole bookshelf and a mechanism that still hasn't really been filled in the market to compete with them. They had Amazon backing, so it was a little bit of a, it was a brutal fight anyway. But all that to say, because those social numbers were doing so well, the investors got involved. The CEO, who I just adore, kept me close, taught me everything she knew. And she was the one who was like, okay, here, focus on this. Like, let's have you doing this. Can you help us with an app? And she really opened the doors and gave me resources that I was hungry for. I was really hungry for that as well. So, but yeah, I do feel like it was the right time, got really lucky, was able to shine in a specific area.
Nice.
So it kind of all worked.
And how long were you in the CEO seat there?
2 years.
2 years.
Yep.
So, okay, so then
2 very long years. Yeah,
Right.
I would say. My years for my company were about to be 5 on the 31st.
The one you own now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And those have flown by. Like, whoa, you feel like you're in warp speed.
Yes.
But the years I was doing that company, for many reasons, were just every day felt like a month. Like it was just
Do you
brutal.
think, and we don't have to get into this, but I know some of the like the backstories of why those 2 years were a struggle for you, and I think what I'm interested in and exploring just a minute with our listeners is that where your leadership, your view on leadership started to shift for yourself because you were being led so horribly? Like, I don't know if it was being led so horribly, but supported. You weren't being supported
No,
in a healthy way.
I was being abused.
Yeah, you weren't being supported in a healthy way. Did that help bring light to, like, what?
I wish I could say like, oh, I'm being abused and it stops with me. And like, ultimately I tried to cushion the blow, and I did, because the people that worked for me had no idea the pressure I was under.
Yeah.
They had no idea the like 3 a.m. phone calls with these, Australian investors that were brutal. They didn't know any of that. They had no clue. So in some ways I protected them, but since they didn't know, they just saw me as this woman who really wanted this young woman, by the way, who was too young for them. Like that had been made clear by some of them. Like, well, you're young, you don't know what you're doing. And I was so young that I didn't want to fire anyone, because I just really wanted them to like me. And so I let that go on for too long. And then, it's
tough.
Yeah, it was, I was clueless. So I kind of put my head in the sand. And when I ended up leaving, and I had this like big window of time, I had like 2 or 3 months before I started my company now I got really lucky, because I was like, I'm not going back to Texas. What am I going to do? And things weren't opening for me, and except for like little gigs here and there. And it was enough to pay the bills. And I'd been living in this place that I was like basically paying less than $1,000 a month to live in, because I needed to save money. I invested all my time and money and everything in this previous company. So I was like, all right, what am I doing? You're at that point, you're like, what am I doing in my life? Also, how did things go like so terribly sideways? And why do I feel so unhappy with myself? And I think that took like a lot of processing. Like, I'm really unhappy with the way many of my relationships ended. And it wasn't because I did something like wrong or like did anything that, was abrasive to anyone, but it was just, I would say they were unhappy, and I couldn't work out why were they so unhappy? And so I identified the problem, and I didn't really find a solution probably until a couple years ago, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And the solution I found was to let people kind of be themselves. One, like, I can't control them. If they wanted to, if they wanted to be trying more or more driven or whatever, they would go start their own company. Like, they're not there they're there to have a sense of security, which I can give them, because I'm out there in an unsecure world, comfortable, chasing things.
Right.
And so I think it was like, okay, I want to give them a place and like a sandbox where they can feel happy and secure, and they don't have to worry about if they're going to get paid. They don't have to worry about finding new business. They don't have to worry about the things that I wake up worrying about. And that's not why they're here. They're here to do the things, that I've hired them to do. And that's it. I don't have to control their time. I don't have to control the way they live their life, the choices that they make, like, doesn't matter. So I went from like kind of an extreme, not really, I was never too brutal, but I was, I went from like, okay, you need to be in the office at 8:30 to even before COVID being like, yeah, whatever, do what you need if you need something. And that took a lot of training for myself. Like, if they were going on vacation, or if somebody wanted to do anything other than work, I was just like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah. Oh God, we went many of those years.
Yes. It's awful. So now, my team right now, we have a big project, and I was like almost crying the other night because they had my back so much. I mean, my team now, I've been working with them. Some of them, one of them, Spencer, came over from Bookstore.
Okay.
And even though they said they were going to pay him double, he was like, nah. He came with me anyway.
Yay, Spencer.
Yay, Spencer, yeah. But they had my back so much that we had this barrage of emails and stuff. And they just were like, sometimes when you have clients like that, you kind of push a little just to, move the ball forward. And, they just, it was amazing. They had
That
my
feels
back.
good.
It felt so good. I was like, this is the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced. And they were like, also, because I've been running in the morning and having to go to bed early. And they're like, also, like, you can go to bed. We got you. So then I'd wake up and they would have worked until like midnight. Of course, I'm hitting the emails at like 6 a.m. and they're sleeping. But like knowing that they are doing it and that they're going to do a good job, I don't have to sign off. Like they're fully capable of creating great work without me getting involved. And I'm just so lit up by that feeling. Like it's so amazing. I can't think of anything more rewarding than that.
When you can trust people to do what they said they would do because you live your life doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, most of the time, almost always. And so, so do they. But then it's not just what they say they're going to do. You have to say, do I trust them to deliver a quality that I've promised? Because as the boss or the CEO or the owner, you're like, I have promised these people, you're like, hey, I told them you were gonna do this and you're doing that. Like, is there a way that you can bridge the gap? But they didn't, my team doesn't do that. They're like, okay, you promised this, we're gonna deliver. And actually now they've like surprised me in a way that's they're like overdoing it. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't know you could do that. And they're like, yeah, check this out. I learned this new thing. And our clients are like, wow, you guys are doing great. I'm like, whoa, Josh, like it's just so fun.
It's a tough lesson to kind of learn. And not even tough. I don't know. It's just it's to have the confidence and to have built a type of culture where you can step aside.
Oh, it's hard.
And know that there's capabilities there and there's heart and desires. And obviously that's been I've had to go through that numerous times, but certainly in the last 2 years. And to kind of watch it, you are like, okay, it's even like being a parent. I don't know how to explain it to you. Like the same feeling I had with Mackie Payton, sending her to Manhattan to go to college. And then, she's now moving forward in Brooklyn and as an actress. But same with, turning over the day-to-day operations to Megan and the team. It never gets old watching, even when they struggle. Yeah. And there's struggle, but it's just having that discipline within yourself to go, you've prepared them. And yes, they're going to experience some low moments and some challenges, but not wanting to jump in and protect every single time, even though I do have to step in some cases. And because there's only some decisions an owner can make.
But then when they're like, oh, I've got this. You're like, oh my God.
Or they know that you're the only one that can make the ultimate decision because maybe it has something massive to do with the business, but then you're presented with multiple options.
Right.
Megan's gone through the discipline of thinking through things in a different way. So
you're coming with you with a solved problem. Like, hey, this is a problem, but here's 3 options for you.
Right.
Whoa.
I know. I love it.
Awesome. It doesn't get old. Like, it's just amazing. Yeah.
So one of the things I find very interesting about your business is, and you haven't done it, and you never did it with me, but you could do some serious name dropping. I mean, you've interviewed some pretty big names in your years.
Yeah, I did.
And then you have some interesting clients on your roster now. Yeah. Can you just name drop a little with us and just talk about what it's like to work with some of these people that y'all are going to know who they are and just what it was like, just to delight us for a second. It's just fun.
I really try not to name drop. I will.
But you will, thanks.
I will for sure. Thanks. But if I'm asked, I have to.
If you're invited to do so.
I guess I have to. I have been told that I don't name drop enough. And I've also been told I don't tell
I'm
people.
telling you don't because I had to read about you to learn. Yeah.
I feel like if somebody's that interested, they'll read about it and they can find out that way. I've also been told I don't talk and I don't tell people enough about all the books I've read. And I'm like, that is just not how I want to build relationships. Like, hey, I've met so-and-so. I'm cool now. So now, like, what is that going to do? Like, make them treat me in a different way? No. I don't want to be friends with people that treat me in a different way because of someone I met or interviewed. So it's just strange. So I don't really talk about it, but I will. Yeah, I mean, I interviewed Deepak Chopra a couple times, Tony Robbins.
I mean, Deepak alone. I mean,
Yeah, he's amazing.
I don't know. Like
He's
he's just
amazing.
in part of my healing journey.
Yeah.
Has included so much of his teachings, and so when I think that the degree
good.
of separation is not that far. That I think this is where this is coming from for me, is not just the fact that the names, but the quality of the people that you get to sit across from is
Crazy.
I mean that's beautiful.
Yeah, some of them are really talented. I mean, the thing about having a book is like really interesting people have books. So when I started interviewing people on Bookster as part of our way to get more content, it was really wild to see who wanted to go on to Bookster, because we had a young audience and it was active. So they were like, yeah, here, get this person on, get this person. And we had Anthony Scaramucci before he became the White House press secretary, even though it was short-lived, very short-lived and infamous now. Then we had Obama's White House speechwriter. I mean, it's kind of endless. We had a romance novelists. We had best-selling authors. Randy Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg's sister, who's incredible. I mean, in her own right. Like, I hate when I say, yeah, Mark. Yeah, she's way beyond her
Mark's.
brother. Yeah, but she did, or his sister, but she did help Facebook in the beginning days. So it's, relevant in some ways. Yeah, so then that was cool, and then I met Alan Alda, who is a star on the show MASH. It was big in the 70s. He was like the Brad Pitt of his day, and he then started a podcast, and so then through him, I got to meet even more people who were just incredible, like Adam Driver, Tom Hanks, Tina Fey. Oh my God, I was just like I was like, this
Could you
is
even speak
unbelievable.
meeting them? Like meeting Tina Fey?
She's so casual. It was so easy.
Easy.
Yeah. I mean, she makes it easy. Some of them do, some of them don't. Yeah. But she does. She's, she came in, she had a backpack, and, she was just like so chill and cool and grounded.
Well, the thing about Alan Alda too, for those of you who don't know, I mean, he was. I mean, I'm just old enough to know who that is, but he has a reborn relevance relative to what he cares about in the world. So that's why he's still very relevant. He doesn't act as much anymore. Yeah. But like I said, I think he's relevant on a lot of different levels. And I didn't even know he had a podcast till I met you, and then I became interested. But I think
Clear and Vivid, by the way. Clear and Vivid.
Clear and
Go check
Vivid,
it
little
out.
plug, and we'll put all this in the show notes because
Thanks.
I want to make sure that there's credit there. But the fact is that folks like Tina Fey and those that you named probably come into that. They probably come into that interview because they're feeling privileged to be in his presence. That's what I'm saying. So that dynamic probably changes some of their usual presence when they're being interviewed, because
they're like kids.
They love
come
him.
in like kids. It was like looking, I was sitting there listening to Conan O'Brien. I had this feeling with Conan O'Brien and Tom Hanks because I just idolize them. And then they came in and they're like little kids when Alan's around. They're like, oh my God, they start gushing. And you're like, what? Because you work with, I work with Alan pretty easily. So I'm like, whoa, Alan, like they are enamored with you.
That's so fun.
But it was interesting because Conan O'Brien like kind of stands out because he loved Alan so much. He knew everything that Alan's ever done, kept like quoting things back to him. His brain's so busy anyway. But something that I took away from meeting him was he finishes his interview. It's like this intense, like 2-hour interview. And he's like looking around. He's like, okay, what can we get into next? And I'm like, God, this guy, I loved that. Like that he had the attitude. Was like,
so excited.
Get into stuff. Yeah. So he was super inspiring. They were all, Judge Judy, she's just awesome. Yeah. As awesome as you think she would be, she is.
Mm-hmm. So what is on the horizon for Bobi Media, your company? You're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Turning 5. And
going to preschool soon, I think that's what that means.
I don't, five's hard, especially in the space you're in, the city you're in. It's not for the weary. I remember 5 really well. 7 about took us down. Literally 7 almost took us down. So hopefully that was not yet.
For you.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We want to help you through it, but what's next?
I don't know.
Just to keep on.
Yeah, I keep on. I think, I'm looking to go bigger. I know that for sure. That's something that we're looking to do is expand. Maybe get, larger clients. I don't want to lose sight of some of the smaller clients that we've been working with or the smaller clients that, in the future. Like I still very much care about small businesses and very much care about helping them tell their story. I really don't ever want to pull away from that just because I think it's so important. But yeah, I would love to work with some maybe larger businesses. And we've started, doing that a little bit, but I've never really had my eye on that target.
Right.
And so now that's kind of what I'm looking to do. I feel like, I know that my team can handle it. I think the last couple of years, you're building and you're exercising your team. And, I never thought of it as that until looking back now. And I'm like, God, they've come, well, not just myself, but like they've come so far. Yeah. They're incredible. Yeah. And it's been awesome to see what they can do and their capabilities. So I'm like, I can go bigger and they'll be fine. So that's kind of where I'm thinking, but I'm also working on a software, which is cool, which is a social media software to help the client and the social media manager or company agency.
Can we please be in your beta group? Please.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely.
Because if there's one thing that the team complains about on our end is,
it's a big pain point.
And you would think by now there'd be some stronger solutions out there, but it's like they build it to, in my perception, I've never worked with them, but listening to the team and our team who also does social media complain about, it's like, it's almost the way they haven't described it, but this is the way I would describe it back to you as the inventor. It's like these companies built it to a certain point. It's like they built a car and they just put what was absolutely necessary to function, but the user experience, it stops so quickly. It's like someone who in social media, there's no way they built it.
For sure.
That's what I think I'm stumbling over that.
They're very software people.
Right.
You're like, nobody who knows anything about social media, like a social media manager did not work on this. It's so obvious. And a normal person, like your clients largely, unless, it's a business thing, but if you're working with, an author or an actor or, someone who's talent, they have no idea. But even our marketing, like the people we work with in companies who are marketing, managers or whatever, directors, they don't know how to work, Hootsuite, and they definitely don't want to like learn it. And even if they did, Hootsuite's not going to solve the problem of them trying to like talk to the agency owner. Or the agency social media manager. So,
and it's interesting. One of the benefits we offer at our company is because I've always felt like I never want our team to feel like, we are in marketing, so the cell phone is one of
vital. Literally
one of the benefits.
I'm like, should I just sew it on my hand?
So it's one of the benefits that we offer at our company, and to hear our social media team talk about the ways that they have all the different platforms, what they can do on their computers versus what they can't do and what they have to do on their phones. And now you mix in the voiceovers with TikTok and all this stuff. I don't even understand half of it.
You sound like you do.
I do. Well, I listen to them complain about it a lot. It's like, wow. Why can't someone fix this by now?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, David's going to also want to be in your beta group too, because he and his team probably can benefit from it too. So anyway, I think, and Meg, I've been asking all the questions. I just
You're doing great.
Get excited. So I'm really interested in knowing for our listeners, and for Meg and I, honestly, we try not to spend a lot of time in regret. What we agreed to do as we moved into this journey of being completely open about what we've done well and more importantly, what we haven't done well and what we're committed to fixing. So I don't know that I want to say, do you regret anything? I think it's more of,
yeah. Yeah. I do. I regret a lot of things.
or maybe I want to position
you want a book
it,
or a list or how do you want me to tell
maybe
you
I want
about
to position it more so around the realm of what would you say to people who do want to potentially own their own business someday? Like, I get asked that a lot. I really have a hard time answering that question. So
interesting.
I've worked on it, so I have I know the questions to ask to get there, but what would you say? Because I know you get asked that question.
Yeah, in a roundabout way, people ask me.
Yeah.
Which makes me laugh because I'm like, they don't want to know the answer if they're doing it that way, you know.
Can you give me this watered down version, please? That's what they're really saying. Because nobody really wants to know.
Yeah. You know, I say if somebody's like thinking about it, I'm like, go, you know, do it. Why? Like, do it now. Like, now is better. You're never going to learn unless you go and do it. And the other thing I always say is, what are you really passionate about? Like, what lights you up? What are you obsessed with? You know, it can be a number of things, but if you're obsessed with soap, I use soap as an example because like people think it's meaningless, but the people who love soap and they turn it into different colors and different scents and then they make it shapes and like, you're like, whoa, I had no idea.
People cared this much about soap.
Right. You get on TikTok and you learn like people care about the things that they really care about. And so I'm like, what are you passionate about? Whatever that is, you know, do your business in that. Because there's going to be moments where you're super sick of it and you're tired of it. But if there's a core passion there, I think that spark will kind of keep you going. But the other one is, just do it. I mean, it's a little reckless. Like I went without insurance for almost 3 years because I was like, I'm just going to start my business and I don't have like $700 a month to go do health insurance. And I definitely wasn't going to get married or have a baby to get health insurance. And starting a business isn't a pre-qualifier, which should be. I'm like ready to go petition Congress. Honestly, I'm like,
I'll be right behind you.
Yeah. Definitely should be. But so I was like, well, I'm gonna put my money in building my business. I'm not gonna have health insurance. So it's a little reckless to just say like quit your job and go. But I think if you are healthy and you're willing to take the risk now, you don't want to be, you know, older, much older. You don't want to be in your 60s and 70s like, oh man, okay, now I'm set. I have my house. I have my health insurance. Like I'm cushy. Now I'm going to start something. Not saying you can't do that. Like the Vital Farms founder, I just read about him and
the egg company.
Yeah. He started it late in life and it was a super success because he was obsessed with eggs.
That's right.
But I think the people that are usually asking me are a little younger and I'm like, you should have started yesterday. Like every day you haven't started, you know, you're missing out on something that could be really magical for you. And I've yet to meet someone who has started their own business who has said the journey has been absolutely miserable. There's certainly moments of misery without a doubt, but you know, I find it to be easier than going and working somewhere else. I mean, my friends, I love them, but often I have to listen to them complain about their job. And I feel for that. But I don't have that. I don't have that. I can complain about a lot of stuff, but it's really not about where I spend my time at work.
Right. And I think too, and this is a whole bottle of wine discussion at another time. I wish starting a business and, you know, I wish there was a lot more guarantees. I wish there was a lot more support. I wish there were a lot of things, but I think that sometimes is the thing that a lot of people don't, you know, they don't see. They may be passionate about something. They may believe in it, but it's the barriers to not starting. Starting's easy.
Yeah.
To me. I mean, I see what you're saying. You're saying from a mindset standpoint. But say someone gets past the mindset standpoint, they know what they want to do. The starting part is actually not hard. Where it becomes
literally, it's like you just start.
Yeah, you just start.
Like, okay, I'm starting now.
Right. I think it's the components that make it successful early on and avoiding the major pitfalls that can crash a business of any type. You know, that's where it gets difficult, and I think that's where it gets fatiguing for people, and it's where the disdain for it comes in. And I know I'm speaking because I've said this a lot on the podcast. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this, but I don't actually enjoy in my true heart of hearts owning a company. I didn't set out to own this.
Right.
I didn't set out to start a company.
Such a different job.
Right. I love leading and I love aspects of it, but owning, and I think probably because I'm like you, we're single owners, right? We're sole owners, I guess you would call it. And I think there's that component, but it's what I think we need to be doing more as owners, and you know, there's 3 of us in this room right now, is that creating companies where people feel like they have ownership in their work and their day, and they have, okay, I have this currency relative to my abilities to make decisions on behalf of the company or to manage my benefits in a way that's catered specifically to me. And that's the type of environment that I realized I wanted to create, because not everyone wants to go through that, the way you described being an owner early on in the podcast.
Yeah.
The responsibility, the weight, the worry.
Oh, there's definitely a weight.
There's the weight and the worry. And not that
But
I'm trying to shield people from that, because you need some of that as well. But I think at the same time, it's like we need to create, and I use this word, and I think I heard this from Seth Godin, but create, instead of entrepreneur being the sexiest thing out there, entrepreneurs. We need more entrepreneurs versus cogs and wheels. That's the way he talks about it. So
yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right.
And the other thing that I think about too is in America, particularly, we don't have like a catch-all, right? We don't really have a great system to catch you if you start a business and it fails, right? So that can be really scary for people. I feel like the barrier for entry into business ownership is very high, because you have to get over that fear of failing in order to do it, which is near impossible, because if you look at statistics, you might fail at least the first time you try. But
why isn't there small business insurance?
I looked into that, and I actually tried to talk to someone about creating it, because I think it's such a detriment to society that we don't have that.
Well, I know we buy, I mean, I know we rent it. I know we have.
But here's the thing is, I think, you know, insurance, like it's easy to start a business in America for a reason. Like it's one of the only things that's easier than like almost any other country in the world. You can start a business here. And other places, there's a little bit more barrier. Sometimes you have to even get it approved by the government. Like it's a whole thing. Here it's like, if you can survive off of whatever you're doing, like you can keep doing it. So I'm like, maybe in their mind, they don't want insurance. This is your insurance. It's easy to start a business. And if you are smart enough. You mean
our government's like,
that's
right.
it. You can, that's your insurance, is like, if everything's gone tomorrow, you have the ability to rebuild and start a business.
I think too, a part of this has come from my reflection, like figuring out what I want to do next.
Business insurance.
Business insurance.
Sounds
Hell
like
no. Insurance makes me.
Startup insurance.
But I think part of it's been my exploration, particularly being in this city and looking. I mean, you walk one avenue, you've passed 30 businesses literally. Whether
it's amazing.
Food, service. And I think, how in the hell do these businesses
pay their rent?
Make it. Yeah, make it. And I'm thinking, what? You know, that's a whole nother subject that would be fun to explore. But I just, anyway, I have mad respect for you, obviously, on many, many levels. But it's owner to owner, you know, there's just an empathy that I have. And I love what you've done, and I think your mindset around finding a way to do what you loved, having the introspection to say, I can still do what I love. Clearly, it has, in the realm of writing, asking thoughtful questions, bringing stories to light.
Yeah,
you're still doing what you set out to do.
Yeah, I feel very connected to that,
and that's critically important, because people ask me, the number one question I typically will give is, why in the hell did you start a marketing agency to serve the most oppressed food marketing group that we have? Y'all all know, we've said it a lot. You see Doritos commercials, you don't see Apple commercials, right? Or
Maybe
for fresh
one
Apple.
day.
No,
That would be
it's
amazing.
it's happening. Well, social media changed the game for us, which is why our company's 20 years old, and we do much more than that. But it was a way for the industry that we serve to have a voice, and it's because at the core of who I was, I didn't want to start a company, but I did believe in dedicating my entire career to agriculture. Mm-hmm. And I had a decision to make. Did I want to be a VP at a large ag corporation, and was that going to make my daughter proud? And, was that going to fulfill my soul? And it ended up being, no, I want to do something that I don't think's being done well. So I came at it from a perspective.
True,
You
totally.
said, if you're passionate about it, my startup mindset was, I want to fix something I think that doesn't exist. And what does exist is awful.
Well,
Right.
That's like why I'm doing the software.
Yeah.
It's just pure frustration.
Right. And I think that's one of the things I'd like for a lot of our listeners. I think there's a lot of you, and obviously you reach out and speak to me about it, but wrestling with this mindset of what to do. So in this, and I think that startup can come from where you are working now. Is there an entrepreneurial lane for you where you're currently working? Because I've always said I love spending other people's money. Always and always will. I can tell you that right now. But if it is something that you have a calling for, it could be driven by your passion. It could be driven by your passion for what you love. And it could also be driven for your passion for what you want to fix, or something, a white space that you see. And I think we talked about that a lot.
It's true. There's so many opportunities. I mean, but when you're in there, and you want to get out of this, say you're working for someone and you don't like it and you want to get out, people aren't thinking, I don't think they're like, oh, I can go find money. Like, people are like, there's never, you're out of this, you're in this lack mindset. But there's avenues. Like, I mean, I know this for sure. There are avenues out there that are discoverable just through coincidence or an effort, and a myriad of ways that things will open up for you.
Transitioning into a final question. I
have like 40 more.
I know. It's so hard to narrow it down to just one. We are going to transition into music moment, but not right now, because I want to ask this last question. So I have kind of a bone to pick with Danelle that I need you on my side.
Doesn't sound like a
always
sweatshirt.
on your side. Always be on your side.
Okay. So Danelle gets a lot of input from not only me, but our company and other people that we know to write a book or two. Like, there's multiple angles that she could take, but I don't know if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're kind of hesitant about it, or you're not believing in yourself, or there's something there. But the point is, what do you think? Do you think she has?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I actually think that everyone should write a book.
Okay.
So I think everyone has a story to tell. I'm a big believer.
That would be your answer.
Yeah. I've yet to meet a person who I didn't think could write a book or had a story that would be able to fill a book. So automatically it's yes. But I think knowing what I know about your professional life and your personal life, for sure. You have really insightful stories to tell, and anecdotes and experiences, and advice as well. I think you give great advice.
Thank you. Okay. She is bone picking. Okay, so here's the thing. I will tell y'all that I don't start things without some kind of a plan. Okay, so for me, now that we've been doing Self-Smarter for a year and a half, everybody realizes, if you've been listening for a while, we've now transitioned beyond a podcast. We're selling services and resources to help leaders. You talk about passion. Megan and I are very passionate about this. And to have the courage that it took a while. I mean, people asked me to tell my story on a podcast for 4 years, and I wouldn't do it because I wasn't ashamed, but I felt like I was still doing it. Like I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, I'm still fixing this leadership, this personal thing that I'm working on.
But you'll never be there.
No, it took me a while.
there.
It took me a while. Thank you for saying that. It took me a while to figure that out. But when the book conversation keeps coming up, and I think I'll tell you right now what my barrier is, and I know that we won't get into this today. My barrier is, it is hard to know how to write a damn book. It's hard to, like, it's so confusing to me. I can go start a company. If I feel like I have better chance of starting 10 companies than even knowing where to start with a book.
She scored high on the math part of the SAT.
Yeah.
Whereas we scored high on the writing part.
And it's so interesting too, because
Yeah.
Sarah has introduced me to some really incredible people, and one of her clients, who's become a friend, who is an author, an accomplished author, moved into our building, and we became fast friends. And I expressed to her one evening that I was struggling with this book thing. Well, she goes more of my personal story and personal journey of literally growing up poor.
Well, she's a memoirist.
Yeah. And so I figured that out really quick.
Well, there it is.
But then she started describing, well, you just need to create, and she was giving me all this incredible advice. Yet it was so overwhelming. So maybe that's just a topic that we need to explore, and maybe we can bring it back up on another podcast. But I love that everyone has a story, but where does one start? That's the big question mark.
Let's see.
And you don't have to answer it. I mean,
No,
You haven't written a book yet, right?
I have for
Yes.
school. I haven't
Okay.
written like a book
Yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one.
I haven't written a book worth reading. Let's put it that way.
it's coming.
Oh my gosh.
It's in
might
the
be
making.
coming, it might be coming.
It's in the making. I can
Okay.
assure you.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so I have a friend who started a company called Plotter that helps you kind of, I'm sorry for the plug, but it's a free
No,
plug. It's
please.
an accurate plug for
We'll
this.
put a link in the show notes.
He really helps you map out how to write a book, fiction and nonfiction. I think the writing process is going to be very different from fiction to nonfiction. So I just want to say that, in case you decide you want to do like some kind of crazy space thing, that would be different. But for you, I would think it would be more either memoirist or nonfiction. And you know, the best way to start writing is to start writing. You're not gonna.
Thank
it's
you.
It's not. There's a lot of bad books out there. Your book will probably be better. Most definitely will be better. But if you want to just get going, you know, I would maybe do a quick outline on the topics that you want to cover. I would write to each topic, and you know, throughout that process, you'll probably find a way to interweave them. But it takes time, and you can't, you know.
If I may, I would think it would be, to your point, like those, I'm just going to say, I have said these things. Start with an outline and just start writing.
I mean, literally, Jordan, Marcy, Hannah, the whole team,
That's
David,
it.
everybody's rolling
All
their
the
eyes.
writers.
What do you think? Someone's going to be like, here's how you do it. Like, here's this magic alchemist like spell that
Yes,
you
a
can
7. Yes, that's what they want.
poof.
I wrote a book.
That's how you write a book. Okay, let me do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the interesting
No.
thing, and you mentioned it earlier on, is that 7s go to 5 in growth. So if I would just grow up, and that's why she keeps bringing this topic up, and sit down and do it. It comes down to also a barrier of, that's not my type of discipline.
Yeah.
Writing is not something I'm comfortable with at all. That's why we started a podcast, because I can talk about things that are on my mind and share and be vulnerable and be somewhat articulate.
You can audio record.
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly
into your-
what. That's
Because I will tell you, when I first met Danelle, she's gotten better over the years, but she never took typing. I don't know if you did either. Like everybody.
I actually did have to
I
take
did
a
too.
typing class.
I did too. I just can't imagine not. Well,
why
Danelle's
don't you
sitting at her
ask-
computer pecking.
Why don't you
Oh.
ask me what I took instead?
What did you
Home
do?
ec. Home ec.
No.
Welding. I can throw a bead like nobody's business, because that's useful.
See,
Yeah. Have you ever used
typing
that?
or welding? Welding or typing?
Have you ever used
I'm a
that?
marketer. Let's take welding.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna make things.
Okay.
And
Well,
let's be
like-
honest,
like
probably,
waiting for that.
there was probably
Bridges?
cute boys in the welding shop versus
You're
know,
gonna
my
make bridges or fences. What are you?
Right? Mending fences. Yeah. But I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't think her confidence on the keyboard, seriously,
Oh,
It
maybe.
is not.
It fatigues me.
She's always like enamored when I'm typing because I don't even
We
think.
don't even. It's like an extension of
Yeah.
ourselves.
I don't even think. And she's like, boop, beep, boopy, boop, boop, boop.
I mean, this is how exaggerated, and we'll move on. It is. I mean, I'm painting a need. I mean, our listeners, they empathize with me on this, because I think a lot of our listeners have the most incredible stories.
Yes.
Obviously, our guests. I I didn't necessarily like you kind of, what is this called? Like a gang up.
Outing you for pecking on the keyboard?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I love it because there's so many beautiful stories. I think there needs to be, to your point, better, more meaningful books being written.
Yeah, right one.
As an avid reader.
Right one.
Right one.
Here you go.
Right. But when she's talking about typing and pegging, part of my therapy, and you know all about my therapy, is I've had to write letters to some folks.
Handwritten letters.
Well, they were supposed to be, but I finally convinced my therapist. I was like, if you want it to be meaningful and you want me to follow your directions, I can't handwrite it.
Oh.
And she goes, okay, you can type it, but you have to, I forget what she said. She goes, in fact, Megan, you have to say it to Megan.
Oh, no, you got looped into this.
Yeah.
Seriously. Seriously.
But I could type it.
But she could type it and she'd be like, okay, does she want to say that? And we just found this rhythm of me saying some really deep, dark, hard things.
You're good at orating.
Right. But I got it out. And so my doctor's like, okay, there are rare exceptions. You don't always have to handwrite things out.
Yeah.
But she's like, but can't you type? And I was like, no, I can't start it. But you
Right.
can give me something.
I wish
anyway,
I
we've
couldn't
rabbit
type.
trailed.
I actually wish I couldn't type.
Yeah.
You know?
Really? 'Cause-
yeah.
no.
I hate doing emails. I mean, I can type. My message is a disaster right now, my stuff. So
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I kind of wish
But
I
you're in
could.
you're going into year 5 or you're in year 5?
Of
Of course everything's a disaster.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You've grown so much that you can't keep up with yourself.
It's true. That's it. That
it.
is it. And my
it.
friends, even from
people
college,
people are going to get fatigued and they're not going to like the growth, and you love the growth. And so that's what 5 to 7 is going to feel like.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Great. That's going to be quite a rocky journey. Can't
Yes,
wait.
it is.
Cannot wait.
Therapy up, sister.
Jeez.
will.
Maybe you can ride on my
Don't
retainer
wait
for
till
a
20
while.
years later.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I can say about your book, you should be just recording like voice memos when they come to you. Do that. Someone else maybe told you to do this, I feel.
Well, what I will say right now is if we write a
Helpful.
self-smarter
Helpful.
book, that will be a co-published book, and I just may do the audio version. She'll do
the reading.
But anyway, I appreciate the insights there, and again, I hope for our listeners that there's some people out there who will really heed her advice sooner than I probably will.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many beautiful stories out there that
Tell
need to be
them.
told.
And everyone's like, oh, I don't have something interesting enough, or I'm not interesting enough to write a
Can't
book.
stand
Like,
that. And
you are.
That's not my hesitation.
no, I know, but I hear that a lot from people.
Right.
And I'm like, if it's not you, then who? And everyone deserves to have their story told.
Right.
Like
Before
everyone's
they
interesting.
die.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
gosh.
Well,
No, it's
true. Because
It's
otherwise
true.
someone else is telling your story for you.
If they
But
tell it at all.
generations-
If they tell it at all.
For generations, we didn't know anything until somebody passed, and then we're reading an obituary or listening to an obituary. I
Yeah.
wish I would have known that. I might have asked my grandfather about that question.
Yeah.
Or about
I
that
see what you're
thing.
saying.
Or the things that go with them to their death
Yes,
that they did that
never
nobody
know.
knew. The things that they care about. I mean, I love social media for that aspect. Like when I'm posting, I'm like, I can't, hopefully one day I'll have kids, but like, I'm like, I can't wait for my kids to know like all these stupid mundane things I cared about. How dumb is that? But like,
it's not dumb.
it's awful.
I love it. And I think too, I think also just listening to y'all talk, I feel like maybe I've been thinking it's too vain, like thinking about it from a vain
You're
perspective.
so vain.
Uh-oh, now we're singing. We got to get to music moment stat. But I need to think of it as more of service and sharing.
You have
Yes.
a good voice. Oh my God.
Thanks. I don't.
You do.
No, I don't. Thank you. This
did
is about
right
you,
there.
not me.
I don't know. I think we're going to get you singing next, I think.
Maybe. We're going to get Danelle a voiceover job and me a singing gig. Right.
So I got that happened to me last night. I
Let's-
got approached to think about voiceovers.
Do it.
I know.
That sounds more fun than writing a book. I'm
It
sorry.
does. I know it does. But the
But,
book,
yeah.
necessary.
Okay.
All right, let's transition to music moment. This has been so much fun. It kind of took a different turn than what I was expecting, but I'm okay with it.
Wait, what were you expecting? Can
I don't
ask what you were
know.
expecting?
It just was different than I thought it would be. It's like, you know what this is like? This is
Like
like happy
ADHD?
hour.
Yeah.
No, No, this is more like a good thing. Like it's a happy hour versus like a major interview, which is what we really like.
Oh,
Well,
great.
we were a bit intimidated. You are
Yeah,
a
you're
very
kind
good
of fancy.
interviewer, so we're
God,
like,
no.
we're gonna keep this
She's
super
gonna
casual.
Yeah, she's gonna kick our ass.
No. The best ones are like all derailed, casual derailed.
Yeah,
You know.
good.
That's what
But I'm
David
sorry.
tells
That's
us.
how I
We'll be
feel.
like, scratch that. That was awful. And he's like, that's
Let it
the
rip.
best thing you've said.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah,
the best.
and y'all missed it, but Danelle said a naughty word, and David had to cut that out. We had to redo a whole piece.
Our listeners are not surprised by that.
I know, but
Yeah.
you won't hear it, but it happened.
Yeah.
Okay, let's transition to music moment.
Okay.
Tell me about your favorite artists. Who have you grown up listening to? What do you listen to when you're running in New York?
Ooh.
Oh, I've been on a Missy Elliott streak lately.
Hey!
Yeah. I had to go scout out some influencers in East Harlem yesterday, and they were dancing to Missy Elliott, and I was like, this is
Everything.
oh
Did
my
you
God.
jump in and start dancing with?
Every bone in my body, I wanted to.
I woke up this morning. You got to see her stories. Go check
Oh,
out Sarah's
I'll
stories
send them
because
to you.
there's
Epic.
something coming.
Epic.
Yeah.
Epic.
I mean, the
I
dancing
believe it.
reminded me of you, but you weren't awake yet.
I believe it.
And you're
Yeah.
gonna love this. So I've been on a Missy Elliott streak. I won't go off on that too much, but I freaking love her. She slaps every time. Taylor Swift, she's unavoidable. Yeah, killing it. Love her. I used to listen to a lot of country, not so much anymore. I also can only listen to music when I'm like not. I'm like I have to. I can't always listen. I can't listen to music as much as I want because songs get stuck in my head, or I will like forget what I was doing if I'm listening to music.
Interesting.
It's probably part of the
For
vibe.
some people, yeah, maybe. For some people, it helps them focus. Some people, it doesn't.
Sometimes
obviously.
it will. It
Okay.
just depends. But my home is like very quiet unless it's like a Saturday night.
You are deep in 5. You are a big 5.
Yeah, very quiet.
Look at that.
But when I'm working out or running around the city, yeah, listen, just random stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
We need to go to a concert together or go see a show, like just some music
Yeah.
together. I'd love to do that.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Another FOMO moment. Thanks.
Come join us.
Appreciate that a
Come
lot.
on.
Okay. Okay, I will.
I took her to one last night.
I know. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. If y'all go, I'd like to go.
We would like you to go.
You can FaceTime me and I'll just come with you. Okay, that's silly. All right. Well, thank you for being here with us today, Sarah.
Thank you
Sarah,
so
thank
much
you.
for
It's been so
having
much
me.
fun, and I think we're probably going to have you back.
Okay.
Sorry, not sorry. All right. Remember, we're going to have some links of things we've referred to in the show notes. Thank you so much in advance for telling your friends about today's episode and Sarah and Self Smarter. We appreciate it. Remember to visit beselfsmarter.com for tools and coaching options that we've curated for you. And until next week, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Thank you
everyone.
So much.
As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming self-smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.